depressed and down, what do I attract in my life? And quantum physics and science says that when I'm depressed and down, my DNA shrivels up, it tightens up. It affects me biologically. I destroy my body. But when I'm high and excited and I'm enthusiastic of the life energy that we're experiencing, then it's all loosened up and it's fluid. It's really pretty awesome, pretty cool. So anyway, what we do, we're always communicating through this father principle, this male principle. That's our connection to spirit, the connection that we have. A story that indicates that has to do with Sarah. Sarah started having very serious pains in her stomach. So serious that finally Jim, her dad, said, you're going to the doctor, we're going to check this out. They go to the doctor and they find out she's loaded with cancer, and the doctors had to tell Jim, your daughter's, has a very short lifespan here. He was totally depressed. He was down. He was communicating to spirit at that moment, wasn't he? Because all of our feelings, all of our emotions is a direct link, a communication. You're communicating with source energy now as you speak, as I speak. You're directly linked. That's why we call ourselves, we're all one. We're all together because we're always communicating back and forth to source energy. Well, he communicated to source energy, and here's what, he was so down and so depressed, he says, I would give my right arm if my daughter could be cured of cancer. What is that? What he did was activate the energy field of intention. And that always works. I like to call it Big Sweetie. It's Helen Sweet's, our former minister who's passed on, used to call this energy Big Sweetie. Big Sweetie said yes to Jim. You got it. And he did it with so much love and emotion, and he kept doing it. He was on, a few weeks later, he was traveling north on International Highway 5. It was a very smoggy evening, and he rear-ended into an 18-wheeler, and his right arm was ripped from his shoulder. Isn't that awesome? So Big Sweetie always says yes. A few weeks later, the daughter started feeling pretty good. So she goes back to the doctor, and the doctor said, a miracle has just occurred. The cancer's gone. Did a miracle occur? We think that we use the word miracles, and that's cool. And the reason I tend to not use miracles, it's like somebody's changing the rules or they're making something special. It's just a business as usual with the law of intention. It's not a miracle. It's what we put in there is what expresses itself in our life. And that's and so we can call it a miracle, call it what you will. So we have this dynamic, awesome, creative experience. And here's the deal on this, and what we talk about during this month. The Father, our conscious mind, the thinking process, the emotional process, is always connecting to Spirit. Always directing this creative source to provide experience. We're in charge. We're responsible for what's happening to us in this human experience. And we do it through our thought and our thinking process. Here's the problem. The problem is that we also have what we call a mind that's conditioned by past experiences. So if we're living in the past, we keep regurgitating what's happened to us in the past. What the Father is doing is sending that direction to the energy field of intention, saying, hey, Angelo wants to continue experiencing what's happened to him in the past. And what does the Big Sweetie say? Yes, let's give Angelo many opportunities to relive the past, because Spirit doesn't understand past, it's just the present moment, so this body doesn't understand either. So if I'm distressed over something that somebody did to me, my body, when I bring it into the present moment, thinks that it's happening right here and right now, and what I'm literally doing is destroying or harming my body in some way. So what's important for us is to do this, and I get this very much out of the New Thought ideas. What we need to do, and I wrote it down here, we need to create a vacuum in our consciousness that allows us to receive the new. In other words, rather than living out of memory of the past, in this present moment, I don't want to bring the past in this present moment, and that's all that exists. So in this present moment, I release and I let go anything that's happened to me in the past. I don't worry about the future. I bring into this present moment a vacuum. And when I do that, I'm open and receptive to my greater good right here in the moment. Do you buy into any of that stuff? Clap if you do. This is something we need to talk about. Now, the neat thing about all this is that if we decide to focus on negative stuff and we experience negative, we can change our minds. I'll tell you a story about Ruth. Oh, Ruth, for a couple of years, she had this pain in her gut. I mean, she was sick. She didn't want to say anything to her daughter because she knew her daughter would make her go to the doctor. And then subconsciously, or maybe consciously, she felt, my God, I must have cancer. So she didn't want. She was in denial. I don't want to experience it because I may have cancer, and I don't want people to tell me I got cancer. So she let it go for 2 years. Well, finally, she was so bad off that her daughter said, you will go to the doctor. So they checked it, and they decided to do exploratory surgery. And they found out that her whole body, her body was just permeated with cancer, liver, the whole thing. It was just bad. They sewed her right up, and they did find an infection in her gallbladder. And so they took that out. I guess they removed gallbladders? Anyway, they removed it. Anyway, they sewed her up, and the daughter said, please don't tell Mom that she's only got a few days to live. Please don't do this. Let us do it as her family in due time. Please don't. The doctor said, I don't know. Okay, I can tell her about the gallbladder. So when she awoke, the doctor said, well, we removed the gallbladder, you're all fine, and you're ready to go home. Didn't say a word about having just a few days to live in cancer. So anyway, a year later, she has an appointment for her annual physical with the same doctor, and she walks in and he's shocked. This guy's still alive. He's supposed to be dead. And he said, well, tell me about what you've done since the last time you were here. She said, you know, when I came to you, I had suffered for 2 years. I had a pain in my gut, and I thought I had cancer. I really believe that. You see what she was doing? She put the idea of cancer into the energy field of intention, and she had it. And she said, but when you operated and you said it was my gallbladder, I made up my mind I would no longer focus on having cancer, that I'm whole and I'm complete. And she says, and so here I am for my annual physical. Let's clap her. This is awesome. Just shows that we can actually put one thought in mind, and if we don't like our experience, what do? We change our mind. Because we're magnificent, creative dynamos. If we don't like our life experience, yeah, drift into my offices and open door policy and tell me how bad you feel. That's cool. But at some point, take responsibility that I am creating. Just as that somebody told me this morning, it was Linda, he says, Angelo, we have created the leak in the roof. Now that's kind of interesting. That's a different topic. Because we have created, and the reason we created a leak in the roof is we want to move to a new location.
Yep.
So what's the universe doing? Saying, yeah, we're going to have to move to a new location. We're going to destroy the building you're in. So that you have to move. Yeah, Linda told me that this morning. But we can also change our mind. I'm going to wind this down because Jesus, Jesus and Bob Hand have one thing in common. Jesus and Bob Hand has one thing in common. Jesus told us how to deal with all this when his disciples said, you know, how can you have this dynamic closeness with heaven? How can you have that energy? And he called this little kid up, and he must have been very small. And he says, unless you convert and become as little children, you won't experience heaven, the kingdom of heaven. However, when you do, you'll experience the kingdom. And he was talking about this energy we're talking about, this heaven on earth. Well, and that's cool. What this means is what we're talking about. Create a vacuum. Yeah, create a vacuum. Release all this garbage in our lives. A lot of us have past experiences. We talked about religions we've been in before that created some negative dynamo, and we don't talk